Jim, I see that you're here. I assume that we're waiting for Brian.
I don't see him on the list yet.
I am unaware if we have to wait for the non-personal meeting remotely provision that he leads us with. Is that necessary anymore?
Well, and certainly I don't see any public signed on, and I think everybody that's in attendance right now is well aware of the parameters that we're operating under. So I think we can get started.
I do too. Let's
now, having said that, no, somebody just dialed in.
Is that 936? That's Brian. Yeah.
Yeah, this is Brian.
Brian, your ears must be ringing. We were talking about you.
Well, glad I could make it. Hope everybody's doing well. And Happy New Year to everybody.
It wouldn't be the same without you, Brian.
I appreciate that. Are y'all ready to get started?
Yes, sir, we are.
Yes. All right. Have we started the recording, Maureen?
Yes, we're recording.
Okay. All right. Welcome everybody to the Montgomery County MUD number 60 Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, January the 19th, 2021. Hope everyone is doing well and off to a good start for 2021. As in previous meetings, I will briefly go through the meeting procedures for our remote meeting, and then we'll perform a roll call for each person in the meeting. So to begin with, I need to remind everyone the meeting is being recorded as required by the Texas Open Meetings Act. Second, please remember to state your name before you speak, including the making of any motions. When you're not speaking, please be sure to mute your line. Third, we'll continue the practice of having a roll call to vote on each motion. After a motion has been made and seconded, please wait until you hear your name called and then respond with a verbal aye, a nay, or an abstention. Finally, we need to identify each person who's joining the meeting remotely today so we can accurately reflect the attendance in the minutes of the meeting. I'll perform sorry, I lost my place. I'll perform a roll call for the members, followed by staff and consultants. When you hear your name or your company called, please respond by indicating that you're present in the meeting. If you need to leave the meeting before it adjourns, please announce that you're doing so before you disconnect. Once I've completed the roll call for directors, staff, and consultants, I'll ask for any members of the public to identify themselves for the record. So starting with our directors, Bob Luck. Bob, I think you're on mute.
I just was looking, I was unmuting in the wrong location. Here, present.
Mike Wise.
Present.
Richard Stromat.
Present.
Betty Doherty.
Present.
Sandra George.
Present.
Okay, that completes the roll call for our directors. Moving on to Woodlands Water staff, Jim Stinson.
Present.
Mike Mooney.
Present.
Jeannie Scott. Is Jeannie in the meeting?
She's here.
Maureen Bourgeois.
I'm here.
Kelly Lawson Kennedy.
Here.
Anyone else from Woodlands Water in the meeting? If not, we'll move on to San Jacinto River Authority. Ron Kelly.
Present.
Chris Meeks.
Present.
Matt Corley.
Present.
Anyone else from the River Authority in the meeting?
Brian, I do not see anybody else.
Okay. We'll move on then to consultants for MUD 60. Do we have any MUD 60 consultants in the meeting?
John Knox with Knox Cox and Company.
Any other district consultants in the meeting? If not, we'll move on to developer representatives. Do we have a representative from Howard Hughes in the meeting? And members of the public. Do we have any members of the public present in the meeting? We need to identify you for the record as well. All right, that will complete our roll call. I'll hand it over to Bob to begin the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Being that that portion of the agenda has been fulfilled, we can move to item number 2, receive comments from the public. And based upon the last roll, there are no members of the public asking for time before us today. We can move to item number 3, receive information on erosion from homeowners at numbers 3 and 7 of East Horizon Ridge Place. Mike, would that be under your jurisdiction?
They're not in attendance. This is Mike, and they're not in attendance today, and I've got no new news to report. They're still waiting on their consultant to prepare a drawing or drawings for review, and just have not received that yet.
All right. Now we move to the consent agenda, which encompasses items 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. I have some questions on a couple of those. If I can begin mine, and then if any of the other board members have similar questions. My first question is on item number 5. And I can roll that in with item number 6. And I am concerned about the sewer revenues that are down. That is shown on, let's see, where are we? On page 5. Sewer revenues are down. And my first question, I guess, would either go to Maureen or Jim. Will this loss or reduction in revenue be offset with the implementation of new sewer rates that were to be imposed?
This MUD did not adopt new sewer rates. If you remember during the budget discussion, we had it, well, this was one MUD that did not change their sewer rate. And regarding the shortfall over budget, Maureen, you want to address that one? Maureen, are you with us?
There she is.
I'm sorry, I stepped away for just a second. What was the question?
Bob is inquiring under the sewer revenue, the year-to-date revenue compared to the budget is about 30% under.
Yeah.
Do we think that's going to level out?
It normally does. That's just the budget number we plan for, but doesn't necessarily come in that way usually.
Okay, so there's no need for concern at this time. It's something to continue to keep an eye on.
We can, or we can do a budget adjustment to reallocate for each month if we wanted to do that. Doesn't change the bottom line, but just changes the distribution over the year.
Okay, I don't think that's necessary unless someone else does. We'll see how it goes for a few months and if we can start to get back to what has been projected. The second question that I had is in a similar vein on page 5 and then also on pages 16, 17, and 18. Our yield on investments is just like everybody else's investments taken a severe beating. Nobody can predict the market, but I just wanted to inquire if there are any alternative investment vehicles being thought about, referenced to perhaps use a 6th fund to invest in order to meet the budgeted amounts of revenue? I'll allow someone to answer that question first, and then I'll have a follow-up question.
And we have not looked at any other investment opportunities. In a market like this, first of all, our primary goal is protecting the principal and liquidity. And if we give up either of those two, we can maybe get a little better yield, but it's not my recommendation that we look at things that produce higher risk and don't have the liquidity or the more risk of losing the principal.
Yes. Here's the follow-up question. If the current investment funds remain at their current rates or drop even further, will the possibility to achieve a balanced budget remain? Jim, Maureen, please.
Well, I would take a look. I don't think we projected that much income from investment.
No, there isn't. No, but I just wondered if that loss would offset something that couldn't be captured elsewhere.
I'll look into that, but I think
okay.
It's a small enough amount that it won't have a great impact on your budget.
That's my hunch too, but let's not get surprised if we can. Okay. Any further? Let's see. I think this is in the same consent agenda package. On page 13, I have a question, simple question, Maureen. What is CoreLogic?
Bob, CoreLogic is a third-party mortgage company. Mortgage companies use CoreLogic to pay their payments. So we probably had refunds that went back to them, which would have to go through their third party.
Thank you, Jeannie. I have a second question, follow up to that. This indicates a duplicate payment. So we've paid them what, if you put these four together, we've already paid them $8,720, and we're now paying them another $8,720?
Probably so, because title companies this time of year, it's hard because people are selling their houses all the time, and a title company will pay, then the mortgage company pays for the prior people, and they shouldn't have. So because it is a duplicate payment, because we received two payments, so we're refunding the mortgage company is what we're doing, because they're the second payment that came in.
Thank you, Jeannie.
Title company is the correct payment for the new people.
I'm sure that they have to do that in order to close, get all the things out. Yeah.
Right.
And then they're reimbursed.
Paid, they collect them at close.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Let's see what else was included in the consent agenda. Tax collector's report. All I can say to you, Jeannie, is congratulations and thank you on achieving 57%. That's a good start. I know that your target is always 100%, and we're well on our way.
We'll see what brings in for you.
Very good.
If I might, Bob, I just looked, your budget, total year budget for interest on investments is about $21,000. So that's if we missed it by 50%, which I hope we didn't, that's not a huge impact to your budget.
Okay, very good. Let's see, item 7, I did that.
I have a question, Bob, if you're done.
Yes, I think I'm done. In the consent agenda, pardon me, excuse me, Betty, get right to you. Is there a reference document for item number 8? Because we're supposed to act upon approving attendance and expenses for district and water trustee business. What are we going to be approving? Do we know? Or acting upon? Shouldn't get ahead of myself.
It would be attendance, like for you, Bob, if you had any attendance at the Texas Water Conservation Association meetings in the last month, if anybody attended a seminar, went to maybe a GMA 14 meeting, those sorts of per diems.
Well, but I mean, is there any submittal that shows what we're going to be acting upon?
There is not.
Okay. Okay. Perhaps in the future we might be able to do that. Is that out of the question?
And any directors requesting it could announce, this is what I attended this month. Because it's hard for us to keep up with there's so many things going on, so many options for you to attend or go to things, especially since they're virtual. It might help for you to report, this is what I did this month.
As a follow-up to that though, I'll be most happy to do that for my things, and Shelley does a good job keeping things straight. But when we approve the attendance at an event, seminar, what have you, I was of the opinion that that in and of itself was sufficient to submit the necessary forms and receive reimbursement. Is that not correct?
If the particular event you're talking about received approval, yes, it would be.
Okay.
But there are times often that it's not approved in advance and that it's reporting after the fact.
Well, just again, to go along with what Jim said earlier, personally, I think that should be the responsibility of each of the directors. So if we do attend something that hasn't been previously authorized, I think we bear the responsibility to notify Shelley and the rest of the board members at an upcoming meeting. Okay, that's the only questions that I have regarding the consent agenda. If there are others,
I have a question about attending things like the GMA 14. For example, last month, I did it virtually. I've been doing it before I was a director. Do I need to clear it through the board? And I don't want anybody to be concerned about, me as a director of 60 participating in that meeting without, nobody, I don't ever say anything, but I just listen. But do you see what I'm saying? Do I need to get your okay that I'm doing that? It's a continuation of something I've been doing.
Heretofore, that has been a regular agenda item when we talk about discuss matters for future placement on agenda, usually like item 22, and usually GMA 14 is included in that.
Okay.
So that would answer, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, those of you who issue the payments and process the work to the accounts payable department. Is that accurate or inaccurate?
I usually, excuse me, go by what you all put down on your sheets.
Okay.
And when we approve it, we're approving for the prior month.
Right.
We got to a point to where I just couldn't keep up with the meetings coming in, and I was missing some of them. So we just decided to do it for the one, the prior month.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, I think, we bear the responsibility if we can't, and all you got to do is call Shelley or Maureen and say, did I get that payment or didn't I, and that you had submitted, and we'll work it out one way or another. Okay.
And was there supposed to be included in my packet some sort of sheet where I list that and my signature for this meeting? I think somebody told me at some point.
Heretofore, we've done it verbally, and I don't know that we ever did a personal sign up. Did we, Shelley?
Betty, are you talking about the fee of office sheet where you just list the meetings you've attended?
I'm not sure of the name of it. I have signed it once. And the words to me were, Betty, you need to come sign this so you can get your paycheck. Now, I didn't know that it would include any other meetings that I attended.
Yeah, I'll send it out here. I'll send it right now, and you can list the meetings on the sheet and just send it back to me.
Okay, so I should list GMA 14 because I was director in December.
Yes, ma'am.
If you're seeking compensation for a fee of office, yes. There's.
Well, I didn't know I could get a fee for that. I've been going, you know, before I was a director, but sometimes it's such a pain, y'all ought to pay me. But I say that with love in my heart.
Well, I think that, you know, not to get, again, ahead of myself or overstep what you're inquiring about, Ron would really, and not Ron in and of himself, but SJRA, as far also Woodlands Water would appreciate and are willing to assist us in giving active participation in this particular, the events that are going underway with GMA is just one of many examples, because this has such a tremendous impact on us. So I think I believe on behalf of our constituents in Mud 60 that they would also be willing to assist us to take active participation in expressing our MUD's collective opinion.
Okay. This is probably something I need to go to some orientation about. So I don't want to take up anybody else.
As soon as we create an orientation, that will be one of the topics.
Okay, we'll put that on the top of the list. Okay.
Very good. Any further questions regarding the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'd like to take a vote on approval of the consent agenda. Trustee Lux, aye. Trustee Wise, or excuse me, Director Lux and Director Wise.
Aye.
Did you make a motion?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought I did. Oh, and then we need a second, don't we? Yes. I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda, and I would request a second.
Director Stromat seconds.
Thank you. Take a roll on the motion, which has a second. Director Lux, aye. Director Wise,
Aye.
Director Stonemat,
Aye.
Director Doherty,
Aye.
Director George.
Aye.
Thank you. We can now move to the regular agenda. Item 12. This is to review and consider approval of the district's fiscal year 2019-2020 draft budget report. In an attempt to, I don't know if we can do this, I would seek guidance from Councilor Yates or General Manager Stinson. If we get all of our questions out of the way, can we approve this draft as opposed to just consider approval?
Yes.
Okay.
But, well, I think John Knox and Brian may qualify that there's still plenty of time. If in the future you see things that you want tweaked, it doesn't have to be filed until in February.
Okay.
It's before your next round of meetings, but we're happy to go through it in detail today. But I think John will tell you in the event, we usually approve these subject to minor modifications or cosmetic type things up until February.
Okay, then I personally then will not move for action, but I will, under the topic heading of consideration, on page 3 of the draft report of the audit, I noticed that the third bullet point, that our cash balance has gone down, a decrease of $578,827, and that's a significant amount of money. Could we get some explanation of that, please?
Director Lutz, this is John Knox. if you look at page 12 for the general fund, you'll see
that shows the illustration. Yes.
Yeah, and there was a significant decrease in your fund balance of the general fund for the last year. Your net position on page 13 actually increased, even though your fund equity decreased, and I can describe that in more detail if you like. But probably the best answer to why the decrease in cash occurred would be on page 34, which is your comparison of budget to actual. Because you actually had a balanced budget, for lack of a better term, for the year ended 9/30/20, but our cash decreased. And I believe you were expecting, if you look under revenues, other.
On page 34?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Other, okay.
Under revenues, other, your budget, you had a $700,000 expectation of revenue for other. Now, I think Jim may be able to help me there. I think it probably had something to do with maybe some grants related to the meters. Is that correct? Or is there some kind of revenue stream that we were expecting related to the upgrade of the meters?
That $700,000 is certainly a familiar number.
This is Maureen. That was the transfer from reserves budgeted to balance the budget. That did not occur. So yes.
Oh, I got you. So the transfer from capital projects, I guess?
Well, just from the operating reserves, it was just a kind of a mechanism to show in the budget to balance it, so we wouldn't have a big negative, you know.
Oh, I see. So,
yeah.
So effectively, maybe that budget line item shouldn't be there, and then so actually we did budget for a significant decrease in fund balance for the general fund, which is why the cash went down.
Yes, because it's not an entry you can actually make.
Right.
Okay,
I'm going to suggest that we make that change to page 34 on the budget and just remove that 700,000, which will bring your budget to actual, very close actually, within 100,000, because that really wasn't an expected revenue.
Thank you, Mr. Knox. I don't think I have.
If I may, I'll give you just the highlights of the report, if you're okay with that.
Please do.
Okay. And I'm just kind of going to flip you right through it. But page 1 is our opinion. It's unqualified, and that's what we wanted to do. It's been the same since this district was created. We've never had a qualified opinion, so that's always good news. It follows the MD&A, which you were talking about on pages 3, where that's kind of a summary of the district, and anything the board or consultants would like to add to that, we're happy to do. That's your opportunity to talk about the district. On page 12 is your statement of activities, and that, as we were talking about earlier, you'll notice on page 12, the total column, our fund balance. Now, we present your financials on 2 bases. One's governmental basis, and the other one's government-wide. So it's kind of confusing, but it's what they require. But on a fund level basis, we lost $789,000, and it sounds like that was pretty much expected. So I think that's okay. But on a government-wide basis, which is on page 13, we actually increased your statement of net position by $413,000. So it sounds like everything was moving the way it was expected to be, and that's why our cash, to answer the original question, why our cash went down $685,000. On page 32, we added a footnote this year, just talking about COVID. It's just your opportunity, our opportunity to speak to the uncertainties of COVID-19 and how it will impact the district, though we hope there'll be no impact, but we certainly want to disclose to the world that we are aware it's there and it could. And then I always ask the board to take a good, close, hard look at page 48, just to make sure everything's right. The terms of office are correct. Fees look right, expenses look right, title looks right, that kind of thing, just to make, so we can get that all straight. We, we can make little mistakes there. And so if you see anything that stands out, we'd certainly appreciate any input there. What we normally ask the board to do, this is due first part of February, by like February 13th or something. And so we normally ask the board to approve this report if they so decide to, allowing for any what I call immaterial modifications that your attorney or the directors or staff may find. Though I think it's a pretty good document as it stands, but if someone finds a misspelling or wants to change the wording of the COVID-19 note or whatever, we make those changes. But we ask for your approval subject to any of those minor modifications.
If I'm correct in what I believe you communicated to us before, the modification that you're going to, there is going to be a modification, and I lost my place as to what we were talking about, that $700,000. Yeah,
I'm going to recommend, and actually this is something we should decide here, but I feel like that $700,000 really wasn't a budget amount. It was just a recognition that you were going to use fund balance. And so we shouldn't include that as your original and final budget. So instead of showing a expected budget or fund increase of $48,910, I'm looking on page 34. Instead of expecting a budget increase of $48,910, we would then show a expected budget decrease of roughly $651,000, and that would be more in line with what actually happened, and I think probably more in line with what we're saying. That $700,000 was included in your report, but it was just as Maureen said, a budget balancer more than anything.
Okay. So would that be under your consideration of a minor adjustment?
Well, in this case, that's why I said we probably ought to make that decision now, because I wouldn't call that one minor. I mean, I would think that that would be a change that we'd want approval from the board on before we. No, the other minor adjustments may be Brian may find some wording he doesn't like, or that kind of thing. And the numbers shouldn't change.
I'll make a motion to accept the report in lieu of minor and major adjustments. One in particular being the other investment income. If that's the correct way to propose the vote, and if that is correct in the way that we do it, Brian, I would then request a second or further discussion.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry I have to keep asking them.
Certainly.
But I am the new kid on the block. So if we vote to accept this draft, there is the opportunity in February, which is when it needs to be final, between now and then to if we see concerns and can appropriately raise them with the committee. In other words, if we vote for it, it still is subject to looking at it and a final vote. Is that what we're doing?
That is the intent of the motion.
This is Brian.
If I can respond. Yes. Well, for about the next 2 weeks, into January, if you or any other director or Brian or Jim or Maureen find minor changes, they can send them to me and I can get it in the final. If I see any change that that concerns me, I'll, in terms of not being material or potentially being material, I would certainly consult with Brian, and then we would decide how to move forward so that what the board is expecting for a final draft is very, very, very close to what they're seeing in this draft today, except for that $700,000 in the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is Brian. And Betty, just to kind of clarify the reporting deadline. So the TCEQ has a 135-day reporting deadline from the end of your fiscal year. That time period will expire before your next board meeting. And so that's why we have the audit presented this month. And then we take action to approve the audit and authorize the filing of the audit with the TCEQ, subject to any subsequent comments or revisions that may be received by directors, staff, or consultants before that final filing deadline.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Do we need to restate that motion, Shelley or Brian, or is it clear that we would be the motion is to accept the draft based upon additional minor and one specific major adjustment? Is there anything more?
This is fine, and authorize filing with the TCEQ within the statutory deadline.
And authorize filing with TCEQ. Thank you, Brian. Is there a second to that motion?
Sandra George, second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Director Lux, aye. Director Wise? Yeah, I saw the aye, but I think you need it for the voice, Mike.
There you go. I'm pressing this button and it's not doing right. Aye.
Director Stromat?
Aye.
Director Doherty?
Aye.
Director George?
Aye.
Thank you. We have a motion and passage. Where are we? We now go to agenda item 13, authorize preparation and submission of district information to Texas Comptroller of Public Accounts as required by section 403.0241 Texas Government Code and chapter 203 Texas Local Government Code for inclusion of the Special Purpose District Public Information Database. I believe this is yours, Brian?
Yes, sir. This is Brian. So this is an annual item. We've got several annual items on your agenda today, some of which went under the consent agenda, some of which are not consent agenda items. This one is to authorize Knox Cox to provide the information required by those sections of the Government Code and Local Government Code to the Comptroller for the inclusion in that public information database. This requirement went into place, I guess, a couple of sessions ago, Betty, and this is to, the legislature wanted to create a single clearinghouse where folks could go to get information on special purpose districts. And so they passed a law that required for the Comptroller to maintain this database and for special purpose districts to provide information to the Comptroller that will populate the database. So the district has engaged the auditor to provide that information, which in our case is providing the most recent finalized audit. So once this one's finalized, it will be provided to the Comptroller to satisfy that filing requirement. And we do need a motion on that.
I'll be happy to make the motion, but if there's someone else who would prefer to do so.
You're doing such a good job, Bob.
Well, the gates are coming down and the cannonball is rolling through. I will make the motion to authorize preparation and submission of the Special Purpose District Public Information Database. Do I have a second to that motion?
This is Mike Wise. I'll make a second.
We have a motion and a second. We'll take a vote. Director Lux, aye. Director Wise?
Aye.
Director Stromat?
Aye.
Director Doherty?
Aye.
Director George?
Aye.
Motion second and passed, and we may now move on to the item number 14, grant exemptions for taxation for 2021 and the adoption of a resolution in connection therewith. And that's shown on pages 31 and 32. I again believe this is under your leadership, Brian.
This is Brian.
Is that...
Yes, sir. So you'll see there, as Bob said, a draft of the resolution for exemptions. Betty, we have to consider these on an annual basis since taxes are levied each year and attach as a lien on property each year when taxes are adopted. So the district has historically granted $20,000 for folks who are over 65 or disabled, and then has also granted a 20% general residential homestead exemption. We have carried forward the 2020 exemptions for the draft 2021 resolution. If the board is agreeable with maintaining those exemptions, we would need a motion to adopt the resolution for 2021. If there is any interest by the board to modify those exemptions that were authorized in 2020, now would be the time to discuss any changes.
Thanks, Brian.
Is there a motion to accept as submitted, or as presented, I should say?
And George, I make a motion that we accept the as presented.
Thank you, Director George.
This is Mike Wise. I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Director Lux, aye. Director Wise?
Aye.
Director Stromat?
Aye.
Director Doherty?
Aye.
Director George?
Aye.
Thank you. We have motion passed, and we may now move to the attorney's report. Brian?
This is Brian. Under the attorney's report, the only item I have to mention is that the legislative session did begin last week. Dade Phelan, as expected, was selected as the new speaker in place of former Speaker Bonin, and they are still working through how we're going to handle committee hearings and testimony in light of what's going on with COVID, as well as some of the security-related concerns after what happened in Washington, D.C. recently. So that's all still in flux, but there's no bills to report to the board at this point. And we'll continue to monitor as the session starts to heat up, and any bills that could have a material impact on the business of the board, then we'll bring those to your attention as the session moves on. That's all I have.
Thank you, Brian. Agenda item 16, receive information on SJRA Phase 2 Spring Creek Flood Control Dam Feasibility Study Grant Application. Is that yours, Ron?
It's mine. It's Ron Kelling, SJRA. It's our understanding, and things change in Austin, but it's our understanding the Water Development Board is scheduled to consider this particular study grant at its January 28th board meeting.
Is there anything that we could do to assist, or, I mean, you know, with comments, what have you? Is it
not at this point? It's just letting the gears churn as slowly as they do.
That's only what, 11 days away. So, yeah. Or no, wait a minute.
It's 9 days.
9 days away. Yeah. So there's, okay. Any questions regarding what Mr. Kelling had to say? Okay. General Manager's report, Jim, please.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I want to point out that the trustees heard a presentation from Matt Corley regarding what I referred to as a summary of our sixth and final grand accounting information, and provided some background and a kind of a path going forward. I thought that information would be very helpful to all MUD directors, and we intended to put it in your packet this month, but we overlooked it. So we'll have it as an agenda item next month with the information in your packet to review the sixth and final accounting and our path going forward. At the trustee meeting, we also had a lengthy discussion regarding the wastewater consolidation idea. No action was taken. The committee that's been appointed to look at that concept held a meeting the week of the trustee meeting, talked a lot about what the impacts to retail sewer rates may be with a consolidated wastewater treatment facility, and kind of got into some discussion about renewal costs for plants 2 and plant 3 and plant 1. So anyway, the bottom line is the committee wanted some more information, and we're going to be having another meeting. Hopefully that meeting will get questions answered, and we will have information to present to the trustees in February.
Jim, did this action, does this get by the tabling of the motion that was brought into discussion? It appeared from what I understood that when you table something, it's just dead in the water. Is that inaccurate? Or is...
Well, and I think it's tabled until it comes back for a review. Okay. Now, it was our intent that we had an agenda item that we thought when we were put the agenda together, we might be ready to act on it. But as it turned out, the committee recommended no action. So regarding how the agenda will be worded next month,
minor setback, just a minor setback.
I'll be consulting with Brian, but I think it's just a matter of how we word it to satisfy the trustees.
Thank you. Forgive my interruption.
No, that's fine. Ron Kelling did report that the summary judgment success that SJRA had has been appealed. Ron, are you with us? Yeah, shed some light. There was an unusual part of that appeal that you can highlight.
Sure. We won in Travis County District Court, we won our summary judgment on the EDJA case. Basically, they declared the contracts legally and validly executed and incontestable. What the city has done is they have appealed that decision, but they're proposing to skip the appellate court and go straight to the Supreme Court. So we're working on that issue right now. It's unorthodox from our attorneys. It happens extremely rarely in extreme circumstances, but we'll just have to see how that goes. I'd be happy to answer it. All the rest of the lawsuits, the other 3, we're in various different phases at various different courts waiting for actions by the court.
May I ask a question, Ron? Do they have to put forward a reason to skip the appellate court?
Yes. In their filings directly to the Supreme Court, they have to give a valid reason to the Supreme Court why the Supreme Court should take it and bypass the appellate court. Yes.
That'll be interesting to see.
And we get the opportunity to provide a filing of why they should or shouldn't.
Okay. Thank you.
Ron, is this not really delaying the inevitable? I mean, aren't they going to continue depending upon the should you prevail again, they're going to, if they can, appeal to the Supreme Court anyway.
Right.
So maybe in the long run, it'll save some attorney's fees.
There you go.
I've been working on this for 4 years. I have not seen any opportunities to save attorney fees yet.
Would you care to comment, Brian?
This is Brian, not a litigator.
And you want to keep your bar certification too, so I'm staying mute on this point.
Trial court attorneys, they're a different class, Brian is saying. Yeah, understood.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, anyway, moving on, we talked about the SJRA and the Sunset Review Committee. We had mentioned at previous meetings that part of the Sunset Review findings were that the San Jacinto River Authority step up or enhance their communications with their wholesale customers, which means your MUD residents. So we've had a meeting. The committee, President Hurd designated our Budget and Finance Committee to be the committee to work with us and the San Jacinto River Authority staff. We had one meeting on that topic. So you may be seeing additional email blast, public notices, social media notices regarding the River Authority. As an example, we're working on a draft document to push to our residents about the budget process, the San Jacinto River Authority GRP budget process, the San Jacinto River Authority Woodlands Division wholesale rate budget process. So we'll be pushing that information out to our MUD residents as part of this new effort.
Jim, I mentioned to you earlier this month that Director Stromat, of his own volition, became involved in an outreach program, and I'd like to take this opportunity to allow him to discuss what he undertook and the results. Director Stromat.
Okay, thank you for the time. My background is that I've participated in the Indian Springs Village Board of Directors for about 11 years. In December, everybody in Indian Springs, because of their use of our road where the major repairs were made, they came up asking for questions, and I learned so much about the details from our engineers in our December meeting that I asked the president if he wanted a short presentation. I found out he was very interested and was always looking for some kind of community information that he could include in his agenda. So based upon what I learned in December from our engineers, I took 2 maps as just information that I could put up on the wall about all the water district locations within the Woodlands, and then a second map of the lift stations in MUD 60 and highlighted the location of the station and the pipe repair. I found out there were many people who did not or had not ever seen a map locating all the water districts adjacent to each other. And they had questions, a variety about the history, the first one to start, the last one to finish, that kind of thing. Then we got right to description of the damage and the repair on Flint Ridge. I described the 12-inch truss pipe failure and all of the fact that this was an incoming pipe to a lift station, and it controlled the services to the Trace Creek, Rush Wing, Reedy Pond, and adjacent Rush Haven neighborhoods. Because it was an inflow pipe with service every day, the cost of repair was significant because of having to pump around the failed pipe to keep continuous service, having to dig so deep between 20 and 25 feet in certain places, and the length of the pipe replaced was about 400 feet. So I mentioned that due to erosion in the wet soils, some of the paving of Montgomery County street surface failed and had to be cut out and replaced. Kind of wrapped up these back decisions saying that I had learned that MUD 60 and our customers are really fortunate to have a contractual services agreement with SJRA for engineering, maintenance, financial planning, and accounting services. Because I have learned SJRA has a very long-term vision to provide good services for us. They have been preparing, thinking about flood issues, although that's not their particular responsibility. But what they bring to us in Montgomery County fills up a gap in our Montgomery County engineering where we have no flood control, no subsidence district, and this long-range vision of how to maintain the quality of services we expect beyond the service life of some of our equipment. Some of our equipment has a service life of 50 years, and some of that equipment has begun to fail, need to be replaced. And I've learned that our engineers and our financial planners for years have been setting aside funds for major or minor repairs. And so with that, I opened to questions, and there were a lot of questions from homeowners who had never thought about a sewer lift station or a sewer plant. A few questions happened about odor control. And one family specifically said that the repair staff in Mud 60 put a vapor barrier on a manhole near their house, and it significantly improved their conditions. So I spent 10 or 15 minutes at most with this, and I got requested by the board members to come back anytime with additional information. There was one downside. They gave me the title of Poop Czar. And so I pass it on to others who want to make these presentations that that handle may come down on your title also. But I found a lot of interest, a lot of enthusiasm to answer questions in the future. Maybe attend once a quarter or whenever something significant is available for communication. And with that, I closed.
Thank you, Director Stromat. Jim, if I could just make a comment, I think that this could potentially be a template that all of the MUDs use for their village associations. And in conjunction with that, I'd like to follow up on something else that I mentioned to you. We have a potential resource that has on our board that has experience with public outreach programs. And I'd like Director Doherty to talk about her experience and see if she could assist either the SJRA or the Woodlands Water Agency in not only formation, but also implementation of outreach programs. Director Doherty?
Thanks. Yeah, my career has been varied in social work. You're always trying to educate the public about conditions that maybe they don't even want to know about. So the first thing that I worked in was child sexual abuse. And so, you know, nobody wanted to talk about sex, much less sexual abuse in the 80s. But we figured out a creative way to do it through theater. So from that, every other employment that I've had to be reaching out to the community, taking wherever I was working, to all levels, you know, high schools, colleges, Rotary clubs, that sort of thing. And so that's what I know how to do, is to get I don't know the information, but I know how to get the information to the places to get invitations. If we set up some kind of group that would be willing to do the education piece and a number of components to it, we could have regular things going out and build on the knowledge base of our constituents so that, you know, we're going to have some important and difficult decisions to make down the road. And the better educated our constituency is, the better off we're going to be. That's my interest. I wrote that in some place that asked me, I think it was the League of Women Voters, when they were asking me why I was running, and to educate this community about the issues that we got around water.
Great. Thank you, Director Doherty. Jim, just for your edification, if the opportunity avails itself, if you could consider Director Doherty as a resource.
Absolutely, and I'll probably be reaching out to you individually later, just either to have a phone call or a visit to brainstorm and talk about ideas. Because this topic is going to grow over the next year, and we'll welcome all the input and help we can get. Thank you.
I'm happy to do it. Thank you.
That'd be great.
Let's see. The other thing I wanted to report, there's a HARC monthly report in your packet. If you've got any questions on that project and ongoing effort there, you probably saw in your packet that we've had a couple of residents that are complaining or have complained about the AMI pole installations. I think we've got 7 poles that either will go up or have gone up around the Woodlands in conjunction with our AMI project. And we've got 2 residents that are very close by that have objected or have concerns. So I'll be meeting with those residents and try to work through some options there and reporting back to the trustees next month. There's a very timely webinar coming up on subsidence in your packet, and that's a very respected firm that's putting that on. I think, if I recall, that's the firm that actually GMA 14 has hired to guide them through the subsidence topic and groundwater topics. So I encourage everyone to try to sign up for that. Also in your packet was a copy of what's called a content agreement. This is a template that's been used for many, many years to kind of formalize the relationship between the MUD and the developer as water, wastewater, and drainage infrastructure is planned to be installed. We've had a director or 2 want to review that document, so I thought I'd put it in your packet. We'll be talking about it at the trustee meeting, and Brian and I are going to review it and then probably bring it back to the MUDs in February to talk about some more. And
Jim, would you prefer that I contact you offline, because I had a couple of questions about that and suggestions?
Yeah, today is just introduction, but yeah, we'll be looking at it over the next several weeks or months. So yeah, visit with me and we'll get into some details. Happy to do that.
Can I ask a question about the pictures that you included in here of the offending poles?
Yes.
Well, I see two poles, 2 towers. Is one a cell tower?
Well, I'd have to look at the picture. I think all the pictures we included.
Only have 1, aren't they? 6919. 6919 Woodlands Parkway.
And that picture, and 2 in there's one at 1104 and one at 1058, and it's 2 poles, it looks like to me. Well, and then you do a breakdown of what is the actual pole that we're responsible for.
The pole in question is the one that's most visible next to the wood fence on page 76 and 77.
Right, but there is a cell tower in that picture also, right?
You know, there's a tower in the background there, but right next to this facility, there's also a communications tower that was recently installed that looks like a tree.
Okay.
That I'm not sure I see it in this photograph, but if you're in the area, it looks like one of the most perfect trees you've ever seen.
I've driven by that thing 50 times. Every time I try and point it out to somebody, I can't find it.
Yeah. So I'm sure that tower being install looking like a tree, you know, my hunch is that's what the residents are looking for from us. So we'll see.
Thank you.
This is Mike. The picture on page 76, the tower to the left was an existing SJRA communication antenna.
Okay, thank you. Nobody's objected to that?
This point.
No, ma'am. It's been there for over 5 years. We've had no issues.
Okay.
That concludes my report, and I'm open for questions.
You know, this is Mike. Could I add one thing, Bob?
Certainly, sir.
To the general manager. The county has asked us to delay the pavement repair on Flint Ridge. We've temporarily patched it, but we'll be soliciting prices to replace the pavement. I want to delay it till spring break when the schools are out. And we agreed to do that. So we'll be soliciting some quotes here in the next few weeks to get those 6 panels replaced.
You were able to have saner minds prevail with the county offices about full pavement replacement, and you can do it segmentally?
This is Mike. No, sir, we were not. They want the full half panel replaced, the full lane replaced. So the full westbound, eastbound lane, excuse me.
Eastbound lane, yeah.
Yeah, those 6 panels will be replaced.
When Richard and I drove by there on the way to visit with Chris, and thank you, Chris, for the information that you provided us about the sewage system in the Woodlands and the additional discussions that we undertook. Thank you very much. But I thought that patch job looked pretty good. I thought, wow, that was nice of them to allow that to be the final replacement, but apparently not.
No, they would not go for that. They accepted it as a temporary patch, but they want it replaced.
Question.
And I think we might as well reveal we did appeal their decision to the county engineer's office, but didn't get any support for that there.
This is Director Stromat. On that paving, will the district be required to provide a maintenance bond for 1 year after the paving's been core sampled?
You know, that's a good question, Richard. This is Mike again. I have not, they have not addressed that with us, but I suspect that they might. I suspect they will. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mike, what did that? This is Director Lux. Mike, what did that add to the project? I remember it was significant.
Yeah, it's another 77 to 119,000. We've got several quotes. We're going to get re-quotes again. But the low bid was 77. The high bid was 119.
Thank you. Where are we? Jim, I guess this is also a regular agenda item 18. We're now talking about the Texas Water Development Board, San Jacinto River Basin Regional Planning Group actions.
Yes, sir. There's a number of documents in there. I'm going to try to just summarize where we are. Several months ago, we talked about the Water Development Board forming the regional planning groups for state stormwater planning. San Jacinto River Basin was one of those areas. 12, I think if I remember, 12 categories were selected or in the legislative directive for representation. We, the MUDs nominated Stephanie Zertucci with MUD 7 to be on that as a water district rep. She was far outnumbered by MUDs in Harris County and Fort Bend County, so did not get selected. Since that time, there have been several of our MUD directors, some township directors, and others that have been applying some pressure, if you will, to the regional planning group and the Water Development Board to get a Montgomery County representative. As this turned out, there's really we have Matt Barrett, who's an employee of the San Jacinto River Authority, represents the San Jacinto River Authority, but a number of folks thought that Montgomery County was way underrepresented considering the drainage basin and the streams that are in Montgomery County. So that effort was actually somewhat successful. And the regional planning group actually had an agenda item to consider adding 3 categories to their planning group, but they didn't take any action on the water district category. But we are still hopeful that that will be revisited again. And after a lot of discussions with a number of folks, Neil Gaynor has won support, wide support, and Stephanie Zertucci would like to be the alternate. So we're asking, in the event this comes up again and we don't have time to bring it back to the MUDS for action, that we can have this settled. And if they open up a position, the MUDS could unanimously support Dr. Neil Gaynor and Stephanie for this opening.
Brian, does that require a motion?
This is Brian. I believe we have been action by the boards to approve this nomination.
I'm sorry, you cracked off there. I missed the complete sentence.
This is Brian. Yes, we have been taking motions on the approval or the support of these appointments.
Okay. Does anyone like to make a motion to approve the MUD 60 endorsement of Neil Gaynor as our representative to the Texas Water Development Board, San Jacinto River Basin Regional Planning Group?
I'll be happy to make that.
Director Doherty makes such a motion. Is there any addition to the motion's been made? Is there a second to that motion?
Director Stromat, I'll second the motion.
Okay. You have a motion and a second. Director Lux, aye. Director Wise?
Aye, and I'm going to have to drop off the call. I have a doctor's appointment I have to attend.
Very good. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Director Stromat?
Aye.
Director Doherty?
Aye.
Director George?
Aye.
Thank you. I guess that's it, Jim, on all that front?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Very good. Agenda item 19. Mike, you've done this in the past. Authorize resolution, approve resolution authorizing submittal of 2021 Water Smart application.
Yeah, so this is Mike. That is a standard January item. The submittal is due March 1st. And typically we require a resolution, or they require a resolution. This year, they've also asked for a copy of the minutes where this item is discussed by the board and approved. So we'll need to include that with this year's submittal. But what it is for Betty and for maybe for Richard, this is an annual exercise we've been doing. It doesn't cost anything to join this group or to be considered a Water Smart partner. But it does carry with a little prestige. You get some special seating at the winter and the summer events, and it's a worthwhile organization to belong to. So with your review and approval, I will complete the application and make the submittal by March 1st.
Does this require a vote, Brian?
This is Brian. It does.
Okay. Is a motion required to institute a vote, or just this recommendation for resolution?
Sandra,
a
George.
Motion to approve the resolution.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Sandra, you're going to make that motion?
Yes, motion to approve. It's a worthwhile thing.
Okay.
We always do. We always win.
Very good. Director Lux, aye. Director Wise is absent. Director Stromat.
We need a second. No one's
sorry. Forgive me. Forgive me.
Director
Like I said,
Stromat,
the gates come down and the cannonball goes through, you know?
Director Stromat makes the second to that motion.
Okay, thank you, Richard. While you're up, would you please cast, I guess we now have to cast votes. Director Lux, aye. Director Stromat?
Aye.
Director Doherty? Aye. Did I hear aye? Aye. Very good. Director George?
Aye.
Very good, thank you. Trustees report, Jim, that's historically been what you've been, you pretty much gave the overview of that in your general manager's report. Is there anything more that you'd like to include? You have Ron's comments about the Travis County and et cetera. So is there pretty much up to date?
I think nothing that I would add. I think we're covered it fairly well.
I agree. Item number 21. This requires action. Consider an act upon authorizing development agreements, design advertisements for bids, construction contracts, change orders by developers on behalf of the district, acceptance of facilities and or easement conveyances. This is shown on page 61. And I believe you also addressed that. And you said that that was going to be a several week process of gaining comments. So do we have to do any action on that? An act upon authorization?
No, sir. That would be if the developer had any projects that were ready to move forward, they would be presenting those at this time, which could entail a content agreement or not. But okay. There's nothing to be acted on 21 today.
Okay. So that is concluded. Item number 22, discuss any matters for placement on future agenda. I have a couple. Why should I have been, like Betty said, I've been doing so good, I might as well keep going. I don't know whether this requires a motion or not, but out of respect to the board members, I would like to propose that we begin our meeting with an invocation, perhaps oral, perhaps silent. But I've seen this done at other organizations, not only within the township, but also other boards within the Woodlands Water Authority. And I think that it would identify our the solemn nature of what we're trying to do here and the hope that we accomplish what we set out for. So I would like to, if it doesn't require a motion, Brian, I would just like to, out of respect, inform the board that I would like to open the meeting with a slight invocation or a moment of silence, as well as a pledge of allegiance to the United States flag and to the Texas flag. The third point is I will be attending a TWCA annual meeting on March 3rd and the 5th. It was intended, we'd hoped that we could beat the COVID laws, but it's going to be a virtual meeting. One of the agenda items in that meeting, I am up for re-election to the board of directors as a representative of the utility district, and would like to know if there is still support. I guess we should also do that, Jim, at the Board of Trustees meeting. But as there is expense to the district, I'd like to have that discussed at next month's meeting. It's a 3-year term. And are there any other items which would like to be added to the future agenda? Hearing none, I move for adjournment of the meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome. Bye.